glad you joined us. My name is Jane Gresham, and my guest is Jillian Hendricks.
Hi.
And we are both librarians at the Southeast Regional Library in Gilbert. Today I'm thrilled to be able to discuss historical fiction with Jillian, and she is an avid reader and lover of the genre. And we're going to find out how Jillian came to read this type of fiction, who some of the most popular authors are, and who some of her favorites are. And we'll also discuss how you can access the collection in book form and online through the library. But first, let me introduce Jillian, and I am going to find out when she started reading historical fiction and what type she started reading.
Well, I guess I started when I was 8 with the heavy stuff. I started with Gone with the Wind. And then
Wow.
yeah.
When you were 8.
I've always been an avid reader. My parents encouraged me to read
That's
anything.
fantastic.
So yeah, I read that one, and I also read Roots. Is that considered historical fiction? Yeah, I think so. I guess I wanted to see like both sides of the slavery issue. So yeah, it started at a young age.
Wow.
Yeah.
That
Very
is
ambitious. I probably didn't really understand what I was reading at the time, but
But it shows
Yeah.
that you can do that
Yeah.
if you have interest.
yes.
That's awesome. What were some of the qualities of historical fiction that attracted you to the genre?
It helps me remember time periods and people in history, because it really centers the story around them, so you get interested in them. Yeah, and then it's a lot more literal than other types like fantasy or sci-fi. And sometimes I'm more that type of person. I need it to be like more realistic.
More grounded.
Yeah, more grounded.
That's
Right.
interesting.
I guess that's the same with the next question you asked me.
Yeah, we were going to talk about what sets historical apart. For example, there could be a fantasy book that takes place in a period of history, but what weighs in more on the historical fiction
Yeah.
is the history.
Right, and you can't make it too weird or,
Out there.
yeah, people will definitely say that's not accurate at all. And you do run the risk of, when you write or you have historical fiction, people who are not researching it, because my idea is I springboard, I read the book, and then I give an actual history book about that person in time. A lot of people might just read the book and be like, oh, well, that's
Move
happened,
on.
and they don't realize it. So you have to be more careful when you're writing historical fiction. Can't be too out there.
Right, and it could lead your reader to more research.
Yes.
Which is fun.
That's what it should be for, yeah.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. Yeah, because they can be mysteries and so forth. We're gonna touch on some of the different types of historical fiction. And some of those could be mysteries. What are some other subparts or subgenres of the historical fiction?
Well, it's just like different eras. You could have something set in the Tudor period, and that's like the 1500s of England, or Victorian era. Popular ones now are like World War II. There's a lot of like women who do like spying and trying to help out the resistance, or D-Day, stuff like that. There's also time travel.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I actually researched this, and they said that on their website. Oh, okay. Mystery, there's so many things you can go with it.
And they all could fall under that historical
Yeah.
umbrella because they did research some
Yeah.
period of actual
Right.
history, right? I know you brought a lot of books with you, and we're gonna get into those,
I think I
but
brought too many.
well, we'll get into some of these different types with the ones that you brought. I know you studied history in college, which, it's not just a random thing. You actually have a degree in history.
I
So
do.
tell us about what your degree specializes in.
Well, it's most of the classes I took at ASU were English history, really fascinated by it. And as my teacher, Retha Warnicki, if she's watching, hello, she specialized in the Tudor period of England, and at the time I wasn't that interested, but now that I've been reading historical fiction, I've gotten those people in my mind, because there's so many Marys and so many Henrys, and like, I don't, too many people, but when you read a book about that person, that's more entertaining. It comes to life, yeah.
Yeah.
So now I'm more interested about that era.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, it can lead to, who knows what, a
Yeah.
lot of study.
Yeah, exactly.
But it can also be quite enjoyable. Yeah, let's talk about some of your favorite authors, and I know you've brought some of the favorites. So we're gonna talk about some authors first, and then maybe some series, if you wanna do it that way. But, go ahead and pull
Yeah.
some of your
I'm
favorites
gonna
off
start
there.
with Jennifer, I don't know how to pronounce her name,
Chiavarini.
Giovanni, okay. Yeah, this is actually Mrs. Lincoln's Rival. This was one of the books I picked up a few years ago that reignited my interest in historical fiction. It was just the way she wrote about the era, the Civil War era. It just came alive.
What's that one called? Mrs. Lincoln's
Yeah,
Rival.
so it was during the Civil War, and Mrs. Lincoln was the first lady, and then her rival is Kate Sprague, whose dad was actually a Secretary of the Treasury in Abraham Lincoln's cabinet. So it just talks about like they're both high society women, and then just the way she describes it is just so compelling. So it made me like, oh, I have to read more. So I definitely recommend like all of her books. Although I have not read any of her, she has a lot of quilting, quilting series.
She
I've not
has
read any of those.
mysteries too.
Yeah, so if you're interested in
um,
mysteries, she's good for that too. Yeah.
And what we're gonna have on the website attached to this event is an attachment that shows some of these recommendations.
Yeah.
So don't worry about
Yeah.
writing them all down, we'll get that on the website. Go ahead.
Okay, if you're interested in mystery, this one is really good. Girl with Waits with a Gun.
Okay, Amy
Yeah.
Stewart.
Yeah, it's actually it's true story of Constance Kopp. She was one of the first lady cops in New York City, and it just talks about her becoming a lady cop and all the things that she deals with. She lives with her sisters, and then it's very good. I like it. Yeah.
Neat.
And it's funny
So
that her
that's
last
a
name is
totally
Kopp.
different period of history.
Yeah,
and-
it's the early 1900s.
Okay, that's awesome.
Yeah.
You have a third over there that is very compelling.
Yes. This one by Teresa Ann Fowler is about Zelda Fitzgerald. Oh, I fell in love with Zelda. She was the wife of F. Scott Fitzgerald. And it just talks about, it's really written in her perspective, and she's so fascinating. And then you feel sorry for her because she has a lot of mental health issues. And you feel like F. Scott overshadows her a lot.
Yeah.
So it really gives a good portrait of her. I really recommend this because you fall in love with her. I did, yeah.
And that's a pretty good recommendation.
Yeah, there's also going to be a TV show. They have a couple, like one season on Amazon Prime
Okay.
based on this book. And I guess I'll just do one more. This one is by Alison Weir. If you're really interested in like Queens of England, she's good for that. This is part of her 6-book series on Henry's 6 wives, Henry VIII's 6 wives. And this one is Anne of Cleve, and she's actually my favorite wife of Henry because she doesn't get beheaded, she doesn't get thrown out. She actually becomes his sister and gets a lot of money, and She has a nice life.
Anna
She's
Oakley.
smart. Yes.
Yes, so, yeah,
Yeah.
because we do like to read about
Yes.
smart women.
And she doesn't have her head cut off. That's nice too.
That's a plus.
Yes.
Okay, just to let you know.
Yeah.
Now I know that some people read them as series, but I'm not sure. Do any of those, or have you got some series over there where you started with one and the
Yeah.
author keeps writing?
Yeah, the one
About
that I
this?
just showed you.
Okay,
I usually don't like to read them out of order. Yeah.
okay,
Because, I mean, you can. This can be a standalone, but it's much more interesting, and you probably would understand it more if you read it as a series.
okay.
And Allison actually has a new one out of Henry's fifth wife, Catherine. I think it's a Scandalous Queen.
Okay. Anything else up there that sort of strikes you as a series
Well, I did.
starter?
I did pick Anne of Green Gables. I know it's more juvenile, but I actually read it a few years ago, and I really like her. She's so spunky, and if you're really in a bad mood or sad, she brings you up.
And that's Ellen
Yeah,
Montgomery.
And Ellen Montgomery also, if you want something more adult, I think she wrote The Blue Castle. I think it's The Blue Castle, but she has some adult books, and those are found on Overdrive.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sometimes we do need something a little bit more spunky and upbeat.
Yeah. Oh, another series. I forgot this one. Outlander.
Oh, Outlander.
Yeah, it's kind of like it's marked here at our library as fantasy, but it really can be anything. Romance. I mean, her book. I know she told her fans that it's so like well researched that it's stocked in the history section in Scotland because the history
Wow.
is like so meticulously researched. So if you really want to know more about Scottish history, even the Revolutionary in America,
Okay.
this series is really good for that.
And that's Diana.
Yeah.
Hold on.
You just have to. I think the only fantasy thing really is a time travel. Other than that, there's no real. There might be a ghost here and there, but if you really are interested in it and you don't want so much of the fantasy, I really recommend it.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we do get a little stuck with where a book is
Yeah.
in the library, and you might not choose it. That's a great summary and introduction also. We're going to talk just a minute about how you might access some of these books. If you don't have a library card, you can get one right now by not coming in, but going on our website and using a Book a Librarian appointment to get a library card. But if you already have a card and you're wondering how to get books, most of our libraries, well, all of them now, have some kind of a pickup option. So you can place a request and come by and pick up the books. Depending on the library, it would be different times. But you can definitely do that for the books, the real books, just like we're looking at there, or audiobooks on CD, or movies about these people. But we're also going to talk about the online options. So I'm going to let Jillian introduce a couple of those, if you really want to download books or audiobooks.
Yeah, well, I mentioned you can download The Blue Castle by Ellen Montgomery on Overdrive, or it's e-audio as well. What's another you
Yeah,
can do?
Overdrive is one of the
Yeah.
most popular ones for both
I would
ebooks
recommend
and audio.
I would recommend Overdrive because I know I've had a lot of issues with Libby, so try Overdrive.
Mm-hmm. Hoopla is another product. You can use the app.
Hoopla, the best thing about Hoopla is there's no hold, so you don't have to wait in line. But you are limited to like, is it 10 a month?
I think we're at 15 a month
15
right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if you're really interested in doing like a history class, you can do the great courses through RB Digital. They have so many history, like I'm mentioned, I'm doing the class 30 Great Women of the Medieval Era, and it's throughout the whole world. And that's really fascinating. There's so many other things, like about Rome, about the Gilded Age. There's everything.
And any questions you have on any of that, you can either call us, you can email us, or you can set up appointments through Book a Librarian. So we hope you've enjoyed this introduction to historical fiction. We will be putting the attachment on the website so you can get a hold of that. If you have further questions, you can always call us. We're at Southeast Regional Library. That's Jillian Hendricks and Jane Gresham. And thank you
See you
so much
later.
for viewing today.